Hey everyone, welcome back to your math class and to the second unit of our math class together. So in this lesson we are going to start with a gentle introduction to our new unit, which is algebra. So in our previous unit we talked about a lot of useful skills that will help you as we go through the rest of our math class together. So we talked about fractions, decimals, and percentages, and it's just good practice to be able to work with not only whole numbers but parts of numbers. So to be able to do these basic operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, um, not just with whole numbers but with parts of numbers as well, so fractions, decimals, and percentages, it's a really useful skill because that's something that's going to start to crop up more and more as you start to do more complicated math, but we're going to ease our way into it. So one thing I want to say right off the bat is I know the word algebra sounds kind of scary, and for at least some of you, this is going to be the first time that you're ever really seeing it or working with it properly. Um, Hopefully several of you have seen it before, but you forget things. And I know this is, a whole bunch of you guys who've done math with different teachers at different times. Um, so for some of you, it's possible this is the first time you're ever seeing it. Now, what I want to say is, yes, the word algebra is a little bit scary, and so it will feel a little bit like this is the start of the real work because before this, it was kind of review. Some of you hadn't seen percentages before, so I get that that was new as well. But for those of you that had seen all of fractions, decimals, and percentages, this might be something that's new to you. So up until this point, we've been going over concepts that'll help you, like I said, in the rest of the class and in your future math endeavors. But you might have also seen that some of these concepts were covered a little bit quickly, that I was trying to fit as much as I could into a single lesson and maybe didn't do as many examples as you'd hoped or something like that. So I know that that's not a complaint I've received, but of course, if that's something that you felt to be the case and you'd like to see some more, let me know. But now, because we're getting into algebra and I know this isn't part of our review anymore, now I'm happy to slow the pace down. So you'll see that in today's lesson, we're not going to dive into a bunch of math. We're going to ease our way into the topic of algebra in today's class. So we're going to take some more time. We will cover concepts a little bit more slowly in the explanation. I'll make sure I repeat myself a couple times, say things a couple different ways so that hopefully everybody understands. We'll do more practice questions, we'll do more word problems, and we'll just take our time to do everything that we need to do. So with that being said, there's a couple things I want to add to that before we dive into today's class. So first things first, extra help is absolutely available. So I've said this before, YouTube comments, leave me something there, Instagram message, WhatsApp message, whatever you need. Um, if you have trouble with a particular lesson, just let me know through one of those media. That you'd like to go over something in a little bit more detail, or you'd like me to make an extra video or two going through some more examples or something, I'd be more than happy to do that. But what I also wanted to say is that for the next month or so, I'm recording this on February 14th, so up until about mid-March, give or take a couple of days on either side, I'm completely free on Fridays and Saturdays. So those will be my days off. Completely free, obviously, there's things will come up. I won't be free 24/7, but I will be free most of the time, most Fridays and Saturdays, probably every Friday and Saturday for the next month, which is the time that we're going to be spending on this unit. After that, maybe my schedule will change, we'll see. And at that time, I'll let you know what my new free days are. But Fridays and Saturdays, I think, work well because if you have your math class on a Thursday, you have your classes Tuesday, Thursday, and you feel like you're completely lost, you didn't understand anything from this week, let me know, and we could do some sort of a review session on perhaps Friday evenings, Saturday morning or afternoon, Saturday evening, sometime on the weekend, right? Um, and that could be a one-on-one thing if that's something that you'd like arranged with your parents or your teachers to get in touch with me and do something over like a video call so that you can ask your questions with your words rather than having to type everything out. Um, But even the typing things out, I could do a YouTube live stream like I did in the review sessions for the test, which I think was beneficial to at least a few of you. So that's something I wanted to put out there, that if you feel you would benefit from having that kind of extra help, um, maybe not for the past unit, maybe for the past unit, that's okay. But from this unit onwards, it's going to be new stuff. It's going to be more complicated stuff. And I don't say that to scare you. I'm saying that because I understand that this is the point where even if you understood everything we've done up until now, now things start to look a little bit different, right? So if you want that extra help, if you need that extra help, talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, talk to me. You can get my WhatsApp number from your teachers, or your parents can talk to your teachers or whatever to sort that out. But I'll be available to help on Fridays and Saturdays if you guys need any assistance, and I can do that in one-on-one sessions, in small groups. I can do that in YouTube live streams where anybody's welcome to drop in and then type out their questions. So whatever works for you guys. Now here I would like you to pause just for a moment so that you can write down something like what I've written up here at the top of the slide, something like extra help lesson 8, but I want you to write it near the front of your math notes, whether you're writing notes in a binder with lined sheets or in a notebook. Put it on like the inside cover or on the first line sheet that you have where you see room. In big letters, I want you to write extra help lesson 8, because this lesson is not titled as one that, sorry, let me just put my phone on silent. Um, this phone, this lesson doesn't say anything about extra help in the title. So it'll be hard to find this lesson and these things that I'm talking about if you forgot, oh, did he say Friday, Saturday? Did he say Saturday, Sunday? I want you to write extra help lesson 8 in your notebook so that you know that this is the video where I cover that information. And for you guys to see, if you haven't looked up the channel before, just go to YouTube and type in Esperanza Online in the search bar. Logo looks like that. Channel name and handle looks like that. At the time that this video is being recorded, these are the last two videos, the two live review sessions from a couple days ago. But yeah, that's where you'll find all the videos. That's where you can leave the comments. But the thing with the comments, if you leave me a comment that you need help, I don't get notifications for YouTube comments on my phone. I will see if I can change that so that I can be more immediately available that way as well. But the reason I say WhatsApp and Instagram all the time is that I'll get those notifications right away. So if one of your parents texts me, if your teachers text me, I'll get that instantly. And you know, if I'm not at work, basically, I will respond within a matter of minutes. So that's why I want you guys to have this information and for you to know how to get to the channel so you can watch the old lessons from this course and lessons from previous editions of the math courses that I've taught. So yeah, pause and write that down, and then we will jump into the actual lesson. So the plan for today, we're not going to do too much. I wanted to cover those housekeeping items first, and I also don't want this lesson to take 40 minutes because while most of you did really well on the test, if you had any questions about certain questions on the test, if you know, there was a question that all of you got wrong, or a question that you thought you knew what you were doing, but then it turns out you got the question wrong and you'd like to go over that, I want to leave you guys a few minutes at the end of today's class to just talk about those things if you need them, and to just give you a little bit of an easier day because you just did a test. So that's why we're not doing a lot of heavy math and hopefully not a 40-minute lesson, just to give you guys a little bit of a break. So what we're going to talk about today is what algebra is, when we use it, a couple of simple situations where you might see the utility of algebra, like where it's useful in math. And then, like I said, time permitting, if this video doesn't end up being too long, you can use the last few minutes of today's class to ask questions regarding the test from a couple days ago. So what is algebra? So the reason I've put that meme there is that's going to be your faces if you've never done algebra before, because this is the area of math where you first start seeing letters show up in the problems. So when you've got your equations, you were used to seeing 2 + 3 = blank, equals a question mark equals nothing. Um, Now you're going to start seeing letters show up. You'll see X, Y, Z, A, B, C show up in your questions where you're now being asked like A plus B plus C equals 10, and then you've got a second equation and there's more letters there, and it's like, what is this, right? Um, so it's a little bit scary the first time that you see it. I'm not going to lie. Like you're not used to, if you're not used to seeing letters in your math, it does take a little bit of time to get used to it. So that's why I want to ease you guys into it. If you have seen it before, but you haven't practiced it, same thing. You'll pick it up a little bit faster. But if you've seen it before, but it's been a little while and you never got very far with it, then it's going to, it's going to cause you a little bit of trouble because you're not used to it. So I want to talk about what those letters are for, why we use them, why they show up in our math problems, um, why we even have such a concept, and then a couple of simple situations so that you can kind of see it in action. So the letters are useful in a math problem when you want to talk about a value that you don't know, right? When you want to show that you're not sure what this value is supposed to be and you need to do some math to figure out what that answer is. Or sometimes it'll show up in situations where you don't care what the number is and you'll allow it to change every time that you go through the problem. So don't worry about that too much for now. On this slide, I just want to talk about the fact that we use different letters if we're talking about different unknown values, and we'll use the same letter to talk about the same unknown value. So for instance, if you want to talk about the same number a bunch of different times in the same math problem, but you don't know what that number is, you use the same letter every single time. And so the benefit to using the letters is if you don't know what a certain value is, or you don't care to make it a super specific number, you can use a letter as kind of like a little placeholder. It's like a little thing that kind of saves the seat for the actual number that's going to end up sitting there when you do the calculation. But it's saying that I don't know what that number is yet, but for the time being, I'm going to put a letter here just to remind me that I need to plug this number in before I do the calculation. And so instead of needing to know that number, you can just use that letter. It's your little placeholder, and then you can write an equation that's got that letter in there so that you can start to build these connections that, if I take this number that I don't know, but if I multiply it by 2 and then I add 3 to it, then I'm going to get this answer. And you build this whole mathematical expression. You'll have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, square roots. You'll have all this cool fancy stuff. But even if you don't know one of the pieces of the puzzle in that whole equation, you can still write out the equation. You don't need to go and find that number first or choose a number. You can use a letter to kind of just save the seat for the number that you're going to put in there later on. So the thing is, well, yeah, let's look at the first part of the slide. Don't look at the example yet. So what I've written there is sometimes you can use one or more letters to express one or more unknown values. So that could be values that you just don't know, or a value that could change depending on the situation that you're looking at. So that you can talk about different situations, different outcomes, different results, depending on what unknown value you end up choosing, what value you end up choosing to sit in that place. So let me give you an example. Suppose I told you before the test that you guys just wrote on Tuesday, suppose I told you you guys are going to earn house points depending on how well you do on the test. And the way that you're going to earn those points is for every mark you earn on the test that you did a couple of days ago, if you take the number of marks you earned and you multiply it by 5, that's going to be the number of house points you get. Right? So I could tell you that I'm going to give you, this is basically what I'm saying in this expression right here. If I said that as a sentence, I would say I'll give you 5 house points for every mark you earn on the test, right? For every 1 mark you earn on the test, I'm going to multiply it by 5 and give you that many house points, right? That's 5 house points for every mark on the test. Now the thing is, if I told you this the day before the test, right? Or if I told you this the day of the test, but they haven't been marked yet, or you don't know your mark yet, right? Then you don't know how many marks you've earned, right? You don't know how many marks you're going to earn on the test, but you know that whatever you do end up getting on the test, however many marks you do end up earning on the test, you can figure out exactly how many house points that's going to be worth. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So in an example like this, basically what I'm saying here is, I don't know how many marks you're going to get on the test. Suppose I'm talking to just each of you individually. I'm talking to one of you, and I say, the number of marks that you get on tomorrow's test, I'm going to multiply that by 5, and I'm going to give you that many house points. But I don't know how many marks you're going to earn. You don't know how many marks you're going to earn. Obviously, we hope you get 100%, 50 out of 50, whatever. But we don't know that for sure because you haven't written the test yet, right? I mean, imagine this conversation was on Monday, right? So I say, I go up to one of you, I say, for however many marks you get on the test, I'm going to multiply it by 5, and I'm going to give you that many house points. We don't know how many marks you've earned, but you could go to your calculator and you could say, well, imagine I get 30 out of 50. If I get 30 out of 50, I'm going to say, okay, well, it's 30 times 5. So 30 times 5, that's going to be 150 house points, right? But what if it's not 30? What if it's 35? What if I get 35? Then I'll have to do 35 times 5, and that's going to be the number of house points. What if I get 50 out of 50? What's the most house points I could get from this test? So I do 50 times 5, and oh, okay, that's how many house points I'm going to get. So you don't know what the number is, but whatever number you plug in to this equation, you can figure out exactly how many house points that's going to be. Now, what's the deal with this second equation down here where it's just a P and an M? Like, what's that? What's that about? So the thing is, mathematicians are lazy, right? If you're doing math all the time, all day, every day, you don't have the time to write out house points earned every single time, right? You don't have time to write marks earned on Tuesday's test. So instead, you'll say, instead of house points, I'm going to call that P. P for points. That's it. P for points. And instead of marks earned on Tuesday's test, I'm going to call it M. M for marks, right? So P, that's points, house points, is equal to 5 times M, the marks, the number of marks you earn on the test. So here's an example where we've created this expression that looks kind of weird if you've never seen algebra before, but hopefully you're starting to understand when or why this might be useful, right? I tell you the number of points you earn is going to be 5 times the number of marks you get, but you don't know how many marks you're going to get. Now, there's two ways to look at this situation, and this is the reason I picked the house points and the marks. So up here I said sometimes you can use one or more letters to express an unknown value, right? I'm going to underline that. So I said an unknown value, right? So that's a number that we don't know yet, right? That's me coming up to you the day before the test, and I say, hey, you, for whichever one of you or to each of you individually, for however many marks you get on the test, I'm going to give you this many house points, right? That's an unknown value because you haven't done the test yet. You don't know your marks. I don't know your marks. So I can't tell you how many house points just yet. Or you could write this kind of an equation, this P equals 5 times M, because you could get different outcomes because the value that you're looking at, the number of marks, can change depending on the situation. So this thing about the value changing, here's the idea there. It's that suppose we're where we are today. You guys have done your tests and they've been marked and I know all your marks. So I could say this is exactly how many points each student is gonna earn. But the thing is, for one student, you scored 30 out of 50, so that's gonna be 150 points. But for another student, they've scored 40 out of 50, so that's gonna earn them 200 points, right? So every single time I look at a student's grade, the number of marks they earned, this thing right here, this M, right, the number of marks you earn on the test, that changes every single time. Every single different student I look at, if you all got different grades on the test, that means that one student got this many marks, so they're going to get some number of points. Another student got a different number of marks, so they're going to get a different number of points. So every single time I look at a student and I look at the marks that they got on the test, it changes how many, like every single student I look at, the number of marks change, which means that the number of house points change, even though they're all following this system. Every single student is getting 5 house points for every mark on the test, right? But every single student got a different number of marks. So you're all going to earn a different number of house points. So those are the two kind of key ways where you'll see letters show up in the problem. So either it's something that you don't know yet and you have to figure it out, or it's something that it's going to change depending on how you're looking at it. So if I'm looking at a certain student's test, I'm going to take their marks and figure out the house points. But then I look at a different student's test and I have to figure out a different number of house points because they got a different number of marks. So that's what I want you guys to get out of this. Now, there are other situations sometimes. So we've just talked about those two on the previous slide, but there are other situations as well where sometimes you can use a letter to represent an unknown number, this unknown value, when it's been mixed in with other numbers. And I've got an example to show you that as well. So, for instance, if I were to give you, so I'll let you read this example, but I'll read it out as well. So it says, you can go to the colmado and buy a snack and a drink for 60 pesos, all combined, right? The snack and the drink is going to cost you 60 pesos. If the snack costs 35 pesos, how much does the drink cost? So that's a little bit of a different question from the kind of addition question that you would have seen some years ago when you were doing simpler math. The question there would have been, you go to the colmado, the snack is 35 pesos, the drink is 45 pesos, how much are you paying altogether? And then you have to do the addition of those two things and get the answer, right? And the answer is the number that you have to figure out. Here, it's a little bit different. If I told you guys, take these two numbers and add them, take these two numbers and multiply them, take these two numbers and divide one by the other, you can do that because the answer is always the thing that you don't know. But in this question, it feels like I've told you the answer. This 60 pesos business, I've told you the answer, right? I've told you that if you add two numbers together, you're going to get 60. Normally, the two numbers you add together, that gives you the answer that you have to figure out. But I've told you here that the answer is 60. You go to the colmado, you buy a snack and a drink for 60 pesos. The snack costs 35 pesos. The piece of the information that I haven't told you is the cost of the drink, right? So you could rewrite this thing instead of trying to transform it all in your head. Okay, I'm going to the colmado. I'm going to buy a snack and a drink. So I'm going to add those two prices together. The price of the snack and of the drink, I'm going to add those together and it's going to come out to give me 60. Now I know the snack costs 35 pesos. So I'm going to say 35 for the snack plus whatever the cost of the drink is going to be 60 pesos, right? So this cost of the drink is a big question mark. It could be a couple of years ago, you would have seen this as a blank in the questions. The 35 plus blank equals 60, 35 plus question mark equals 60. That's what's going on here. And then the only reason we would use a single letter is we're too lazy to write out cost of the drink. So you can say 35 plus, and you can pick the letter. You can say D for drink, you could say C for cost, you could say P for price, you could say A because your name starts with an A. It doesn't matter. You can pick whatever letter you want. In a couple of lessons, we'll talk about how to properly write down the way that you're choosing a letter so that somebody who's reading your work later can figure out what you did. There's just a little sentence that you have to write to say that this letter means this letter means that, this letter means that, but then you can pick whatever letters you want. So this is an example where normally if the question was snack costs 35, drink costs 25 or 45 or whatever I said before, 45 I think, then how much do you have to pay in total? You can figure that out because that's just your regular addition problem. But this time I kind of gave you the answer. I told you the answer is going to be 60 pesos. The snack costs 35. What does the drink cost? And now you've got to do this you got to change the question in your head and you got to move numbers around the equal sign and it gets a little bit confusing to do in your head. So write it down on paper. 35 for the snack, something for the drink. So just a little placeholder. This is saving the seat for what the actual cost of the drink is, and then the total. And so then from this equation, you could figure out how much the drink costs. So that's a couple of more situations of how you can use algebra. So yeah, just a couple of things, a couple of final points I wanted to add in. So normally when we're doing these problems involving these unknown numbers, these unknown quantities, Normally, the unknown value is represented by the letter X. And it's this weird little italicized kind of curvy X. And when you're handwriting it, I tend to write it a little bit more neatly than this, but because I'm writing on the computer with my mouse, but kind of like that, almost like a backwards C connected to a forward C, joined in the middle, right? So it kind of looks like an X, but it looks very, very different from this X, right? Because this X looks like multiplication. This X does not. This X does not. So the idea there is we write this fancy curvy swirly X so that it doesn't look like multiplication, but also so that it doesn't look like a number. So it is a letter, it is a placeholder, but it doesn't look like we're trying to multiply two things together. Um, so normally we use X. Obviously, if you've got more unknown values, you can use more letters. Now, you don't have to use X. I'm just saying that a lot of the time you'll see the problem is given with X as your unknown value. And then if you've got more, it'll be X, Y, Z. If you've got a ton of them, it'll be X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D. Uh, if it's just 4, it might be X, Y, Z, A. It might be W, X, Y, Z. So it tends to like follow the alphabet a little bit, but you have complete free choice when you're assigning those letters if they haven't been chosen for you. Like if it's a word problem and I didn't pick what letter you have to use to represent the number of house points, you could do H for house, you could do P for points, you could do whatever the first letter of your house's name is, could be what you put there. So it's completely up to you. I'm just saying that in general, if you don't really care what they're called, usually you'll start with X and then you'll go to Y, Z, and then you'll just follow the alphabet from the beginning, A, B, C, D, and you'll go from there. And another thing, to make life simple, basically because mathematicians are lazy. So firstly, the mathematician will not write out the entire phrase. Marks earned on Tuesday's test. He'll pick a letter. It'll be M for marks or T for test or T for Tuesday or whatever. And he'll write just that letter. So like what we saw down here. So this P equals 5 times M. P for points because we're too lazy to write house points earned. And M for marks earned on Tuesday's test, just because it's too long to write. But the mathematician is also too lazy to write the multiplication symbol. So if it's multiplication, but only multiplication, not addition, not subtraction, not division, not anything else. If it's multiplication, they won't even write the times sign. They won't even write that little X in between. They'll just stick the number and the letter together. So you'll have P equals 5M. 5M smushed together, that means multiplication. That means 5 times M. So we'll see that as we go on and we do questions in the next few days. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of this. So when you start to see a lot of X show up in the problems that we do, it's not multiplication. And when you see numbers and letters stuck together, that is multiplication. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that, but obviously we'll talk about it again in the future as we start doing some questions. Now, one thing to hopefully put your minds at ease a little bit is the fact that many of you, most of you, if not all of you, will probably have actually seen and done algebra problems before, maybe without knowing it. So if you've ever seen something like this and it scares the living daylights out of you because it's big scary math and that's a lot of letters, that's natural because you're not used to seeing letters in your math. But if you've ever seen something like this in like a Facebook meme or an Instagram meme or something like that, or you've got an older sibling or mom or dad has shown you something like this, that's algebra. These are unknown quantities, but instead of representing them with letters, they're being represented with emojis. Sometimes it's a fruit, sometimes it's a smiley face, sometimes it's whatever, but they're being represented by something else, something that isn't a number, right? So this is apple plus apple plus apple is equal to 30. That's the same thing as saying x plus x plus x is equal to 30, or a plus a plus a is equal to 30, right? Same thing here, apple plus banana is equal to 18. That could be a plus b is equal to 18, right? Or x plus y is equal to 18. So it's all just algebra. It just looks a little bit less threatening, bright colors, round shapes, as opposed to a bunch of letters, which you've never seen before. It does get a little bit scary, I know. But I just wanted to point out that if you've ever seen anything like this, You've seen algebra before. If you've ever solved anything like this, you've done algebra problems before. And this is not the easiest algebra problem. Having so many different numbers that you don't know, it's a little tricky. Um, in fact, we're going to start a lot easier than this. We'll work our way up to solving problems like this. They're not that hard, but we need to start a little bit simpler than that. And then, of course, here's just another example of how what you're really doing is math, even if it doesn't look like math. So like you'll see these first three lines on Facebook posts from a few years ago. I haven't seen any made recently, but like a few years ago, this was all over the place. Um, where, you've got like different emojis representing different things. Maybe it's the cost of those things, maybe it's something else. And you got to figure out, well, how much is the burger worth, and how much is this worth, and how much is that worth? And then basically you're doing math. Basically, those are variables. So it would be totally reasonable to write something like this. This is like doing calculus, but with emojis instead of variables. So if you've ever seen scary looking math with this weird S at the beginning, and then you've seen a whole bunch of letters inside, it's basically the same thing going on, except it looks a little bit less threatening to have, a hot dog and a burger instead of an X and a Y. So that's all that's going on there. I just wanted to point out that if you've ever seen anything like this before, you've seen algebra before. And the last thing I wanted to say for today is that these unknown values that we keep talking about and that we keep representing with letters, they're called variables. Now, they're called variables because they show up in situations where, like we saw with the marks for the test, is they either don't have to be a specific value, like we don't know what that specific value is right now, um, or that value is allowed to change. So it might be that we don't care what the value is. I'm telling you the day before the test, you're going to earn 5 points for every mark you get. I don't care what score you get for every score, for every mark you score, you're going to get 5 house points, right? Something like that. So I don't care what that value is, but I need to represent it with something so I can show you what calculation we're going to do. Or the value is allowed to change, just like it'll change from student to student with the marks on the test, right? That student A got 30 marks, student B got 40 marks, student C got 45 marks, so it'll change. So another word for change is vary, and that's where you get variables, right? So the number is allowed to vary. It doesn't have to be a specific number. It's allowed to change. It's allowed to vary. So it's a variable. Now, starting next class, we're going to start by looking at how to solve simple problems. So problems where you've got a few numbers and then one variable. So initially, it'll be just one variable. You'll see one letter show up somewhere in the question. And then as we get a little bit more advanced, you'll see the same letter show up a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and we're going to figure out how to solve those. And then down the road, 2, 3, 4 lessons from now, we'll do problems with 2 variables and 3 variables and how to solve those and how to know if you have enough information to solve those and all of that stuff. So this is your lesson to introduce you to the concept of algebra. If you are new to algebra, I hope this has calmed your nerves a little bit. If you have seen all of this before and you got really bored, I do apologize. I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page before I just speed ahead because I don't want to leave anybody behind. For those of you that have seen this before, my philosophy is that if you're struggling with the subject, then the explanation will hopefully help you get a clearer understanding of the subject. If you already understood the subject and you're getting bored, then hopefully from this you'll develop the patience and a sense of understanding on how to teach this subject so that you can teach a younger sibling, a friend who's struggling, a classmate who's struggling, down the road a kid of yours who's struggling and they're not understanding why. Hopefully you'll learn a little bit of that as well if you're kind of just sitting waiting for this to be over. So that's it. That's all I got. That is everything for today's class, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. So as always, if you have any questions, let me know. If you'd like extra help, if you've got questions about the previous unit or you're absolutely terrified about this unit, talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, find a way to get in touch with me, and I will help you through it. I am not here to stress you guys out. I am here to give you guys all the tools you need to succeed in math, to realize that math can be useful, to realize that math can be fun, and then to use it to your benefit so that you can it becomes a tool in your tool belt that you can use whenever you happen to need it. So with that, I will leave you for today. Enjoy your weekend. Take a little bit of a breather if you can, because I know you guys worked hard on the test a couple days ago, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.